With us, what was your Disney professional internship?
Okay, so my Disney professional internship was with guest relations, and I was stationed in Epcot, and that was from 2020 to 2020, essentially. So from January 2020 to March 2020, and unfortunately, COVID knocked us all out.
All right, so you got a good 3 months to of experience there.
Brilliant three
So
months. It
let's
was a
walk
lot of
back
fun.
to tell us where you're from and what did you go to Disney growing up, or how does Disney play into your life as a young person?
Okay, so for me, with how Disney played into my life, essentially, I was born in Georgia but moved to Florida. I honestly feel more like a Florida native than a Georgia native because I've been here for so long. It was like a little kid. I moved here for my grandparents. My mom was obsessed with Disney, and we'd always go on Disney trips for family trips and vacations. Um, at some point during high school, I was like, this is too much because I got way more work than I want to be focused on and got really mad at constantly going to Disney. But then eventually that mellowed out. And then when I was in college, and my mom would keep hearing, especially like as I was going through high school in my later years. So like in my junior and sophomore year, or senior year, my mom was like, "Oh, what's the Disney College program like?" Blah blah blah, asking everybody else who's on a DCP, and specifically just the regular DCP. And she does that, and then she would push me while I was in college. She's like, "Oh, you should apply. You should apply." And then I kind of just did because I was like, I had a weird sort of gap where I probably would have graduated early, and I was like, I don't care if I graduate early or not. So I was like, let me go do this. Yeah, I got in right away to a DCP and actually fell in love with it. I was like, hey, working here is not too bad. It's not as bad as my other fast food job that I was doing at
Ah,
my college. So I
what
was
did
like, you
you
know
do?
what? It's a little better.
Where did you go to college, and then what did you do in the college program?
So I'm a Gator. So I went to
Okay.
UF. And my first college program was 2017. And I did Tomorrowland stands. So it was the launching pad. So, like, where the Astro Orbiter is on top of the little food right there, selling hot dogs and stuff. And then some of the other little things that were in Tomorrowland. Like, there's a little cart on the side that's like water and popcorn. And it was mostly just selling water, popcorn, sodas. Better say hot dogs and Mickey pretzels. It was a
Did
lot
you
of
do it
fun.
in January 2017 or fall or summer?
I did spring, yeah. So it was January to May.
I was there then. That's when I did my
No way. What?
I
Where were you
started
at?
I was at I started fall 2016 and I extended January to May. So my first fall semester I was at Flying Fish as a hostess. And then
Nice.
my second semester I was at Coral Reef at Epcot.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. I did a second one right before my professional internship as well. And I was photo passes for the fall in 2019.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
So May
so
2019, I did photo pass and then got into professional internship.
you did the college program, which for everyone listening, that's very different than the internship. Very different. The internship's much harder to get into, I will say. Um, and it's more specific. But so you learned, okay, wait, it's kind of fun working at Walt Disney World. It's kind of fun. And then did you hear about the internship while you were working at Disney?
Um, Yeah, something along the lines, or like while I was looking at the Disney internships, the college program ones, then I saw that they also had the professional ones. And so I did the college program and then I was looking into the professional ones and I'm like, oh, there's a lot more than I expected here. Like there was a whole bunch of different art ones and I was gearing for art because that was my major. And I ended up in a guest relation somehow.
That's funny because, okay, so from what I've heard from guest relations, and obviously you can tell me if this is wrong, but to me it seems like a lot of people want that job and it's really hard to get. Um, Maybe you have to see something different, but when I was working there, and because it seems, I know you guys deal with like the most angry people of all the angry people, but it also is like you have the most power in a way. So,
You actually do. You have about as much as power as a leader does.
oh my gosh. That's guys, that means a lot because for us front people, I mean, I'm not there anymore, but it's hard to be like working at a pretzel stand or working as a hostess and people are complaining and you don't have the authority to make the magic you wish you could make. So, guest relations, I mean, we always send everyone there. So, you wanted to do art, like you were a painter. You're like, is that what you do by art? Like,
Yes, yes, I was a painter. I did a BFA and it was specifically focused in painting and I was trying to get into like a show painting or something along those lines. And yeah, I had another internship that was another one that I applied for but got beaten out of, that was costume design at the same time.
Hmm.
And oh well, no big deal. I'm just happy I got into guest relations. It's a lot of fun, and since that's been on my resume, it looks awesome.
So why do you think, because I thought a lot of the internships, they have requirements that you study. Like, why do you think after the interview process you got picked for the guest relations?
So for guest relations, initially I was actually denied, and then somebody dropped. And so I was essentially on that wait list. Next pick, I got called back last second. Like, hey, you want to join guest relations? I
Wow.
do think that I do interview pretty well, and I come off as very bright and bubbly to even the interviewers, even when they don't see my face. So it probably helps in that sense. I think the main thing is when they initially said, "Oh, they initially probably didn't want me in guest relations," was mostly because I didn't have like not the managerial skills, like the
Customer.
hard like compute yeah no the
Oh,
computing skills part. So understanding that there's like a lot of software, but I was like, hey, I'm open to all of that type of stuff, and I'm pretty quick with computers. Like, not for my job do I have a lot of, at that point in time, did I have a lot of computer experience? No, but I was like, I'm also very tech savvy, and I'm the the Wi-Fi assistant in the household. And that was the way how I told it to them. They're like, okay, but obviously they went with other candidates first that had like majors more aligned with business management first, and then they just went with me as a backup. And I'm like, okay, cool, this works out. And I've proved to learn like all these different programs that are required for guest relations pretty quickly
wow.
and passed like after the week assessment
So
or
do
the
you
week of
think
training.
that's what they're looking for is, or if you even remember what it said under like requirements or preferred qualifications, like they wanted some business or computer skills?
Yeah, I think they want computer skills and some more business aligned. From what I could tell, at least that was like my other cohort. But at the same time, when I would talk to other guest relation cast members that were just guest relations and no longer on a professional internship, they came from all types of backgrounds. So I do think that they still want a really big mix and blend of different cast members. But for the professional internship specifically, I think they were looking, at least at that point in time, for those who were like probably going into business or marketing, and took those as priority before they would go for other majors.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how many steps was the process to apply for this?
You apply like you do any internship, and
Do
yeah,
I
it
get
was just a phone interview. Yeah, one round of phone interviews.
one round of phone? Is there an essay or just a basic, why do you
No
want to?
essay.
Okay.
Yeah, no essay. I didn't submit a cover letter. I'm really bad. I never submit, almost never submit cover letters. I feel like they just don't get read to begin with. And yeah, it was just, you submit it, tells you right away yes, no, you'll get a phone interview, and it was just a phone interview and then a yes, no. And so I got the note, and then I got a call back of like, hey, never mind, we had someone drop.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, so logistic wise, do they provide housing to the interns as well as the CPs?
Uh, no, you have to find your own. Some they're like, we have some space if available, but most likely you need to find your own. So I did have to find my own, and that was probably a little stressful getting called last minute because I was going to have to be out of the housing within like 4 days, something like that, 4 or 5 days. So I had to like just boom and like snap and run and be like, I gotta pack and go and find somewhere to live. I think I
That's
had like a week.
insane.
Yeah, I was fine with it. It managed. It worked out.
So, okay, let's talk guest relations specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us whatever first comes to mind when you look back at guest relations at Epcot.
Yes.
An overview, maybe like for if someone had no idea what the guest relations did, how would you tell them?
So with guest relations, we would handle any sort of guest complaints or compliments. We do both. We take compliments and we love the compliments. So guest relations is mostly handling any sort of guest complications that might occur during their vacation in order to give them the best and smoothest process and the most enjoyable vacation. So it entails so many things. It can entail just general planning of, I have no idea how to use my Disney experience. Um, and this is, again, the systems have changed a little bit, but essentially that's some of the main ones. Now we have Genie Plus. I did not have Genie Plus when I did this back in 2020. So now it's like, how do I use my Disney experience and Genie Plus and those sorts of things? Just understanding the general gist of how to plan Disney and understand like this is the pathway you should take. So instead of it was Fast Pass systems, now it's Genie Plus. any sort of understanding how to make reservations for dinner, and any sort of complications that might have happened at hotels. Although we did say you need to go to the hotels because we only have so much power over hotels. They kept theirs more separate. But if you had some other thing, or if you had questions for shipping items from the parks to the resorts, we would help you with that. We also did lots and lots and founds. Because almost anything and everything that is found finds its way back to guest relations. And nighttime, when you would be closing, you are helping people find their lost items. We had God knows how many phones in a day. Lots and lots of sunglasses, though. We're just like looking
Yes.
at the bin of sunglasses, and we're like, okay, if you lose sunglasses, you're gonna see a whole bin of sunglasses, and be like, please
Oh,
help.
I remember
um,
that because as a hostess, I remember I didn't like that rule because if someone left their credit card or phone, our manager said we had to take it to guest relations. And I was like, but someone's just going to come up to us. And then I have to tell them to walk all the way there. But that's what we
yep,
had to do.
it's for safekeeping essentially, and knowing that like it's in a location. And when it comes to guest relations, there's another part of guest relations, another person who's just assigned to literally tag all of the items and put in as much as information as possible into this system. So in case they don't go to guest relations and it's not claimed within the next 3 days, I believe 72 hours, and they don't come back to the park, then it goes to this really big warehouse and it's tagged so you can search online for how to find your item and give as much as information as possible, and it will match it, and it'll show you the picture with the item and be like, oh, is this yours? Credit cards are the easiest thing because obviously it's tied to your name, but something like a phone, it would just go there and you would search later on to find your phone when you get back from your vacation.
That's
So there's
crazy.
I know, and people would not come and pick up phones. That's the crazier part to me. I'm like, you're just not going to pick up your phone?
Oh my gosh. They're like, I can't be bothered.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so guest relations handled like a lot of different things. And so any other guest recovery that you might have needed, we were there for it. If you felt like you weren't properly recovered enough, um, say like at a like at a location, like if you were dining and you didn't like something and they didn't give you a comp on it, you would probably be like, okay, so let me look at this, and here, have a Disney gift card. So sorry about your inconvenience.
That's another question. And maybe you're not allowed to tell us. Like maybe I'm sure there's a lot of confidential stuff. But my question is, I guess like any job who has power, there's some wiggle room and there's some up to your own determination of like what if you're gonna give someone a comp. Did they have a rule of thumb or was it just if you were feeling nice that day, like if a guest complained and you're like how much power did you have to because you can't just give every single complaint a gift card. So what do you
No. You can't just give everything a single complaint. The rule of thumb was, is it reasonable, right? So don't go crazy and give $100 on something that's like $10, obviously. But does it make sense? Does it make sense to give this person this item, right? So say you dropped your Mickey ice cream bar and nobody could help you. You would come to guest relations and be like, I dropped my Mickey ice cream bar. Here's something so you can go get another Mickey ice cream bar. That's the baseline on that one, so it has to make sense. I'm not going to give you $50 because you dropped your Mickey ice cream bar. We're not allowed. We would also probably get in trouble as well. So it's like, make it make sense. So it has to be reasonable. It's all reasonable accommodations.
it's probably harder when people complain about things that are around wait times because part of you is like, well, that's what a theme park is. Welcome to a theme park. But
Unfortunately, yeah.
when something happens for like a ride breaking down or like a restaurant, people just being late, like that probably could waiver, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that one waivers. I know Disney has in their policy, like, please don't be late, but you have a grace period of about 10 minutes. So do keep that in mind. And back then for fast passes, essentially if a ride went down, the system would automatically go and change your fast pass into a anything type of fast pass where you can go to any other ride in that ride tier instead.
Mhm.
Or you can come back at another time, any point in time, to come back to that ride. So that we didn't have to handle too much of those issues because we already had a system in place to help take care of the majority of those issues. Um, yeah, so let me see. Yeah, even if and then if you were waiting in line and a ride broke down, usually too as well, somebody was already there to scan your magic band. Like one of the ride attendants were already there, like, okay, here you go. This is the fast pass for this ride to come back whenever we reopen. So they didn't even have to come to us afterwards.
Okay. I miss that system. I like it better than Genie Plus.
I do too, but supposedly it's helps wait times with Genie Plus, making people pay.
Supposedly. So, okay, this next question is what is because a lot of people want to work at Disney from a genuine place of like the real making the magic, and then you can get there and just get caught up in everything. And especially you get swamped with so much like how do I use my app? But what were some of your favorite problems to solve, favorite things you helped people with?
Okay, I do remember this one couple I had that was like an older couple, and they that's the fun part when you explain to them how the technology works because they were like, we are determined to understand how this works and how to plan ourselves out, but we need help to understand this. So it was great to go there and just watch their enthusiasm, and every time they would understand something they have their aha moment and just get even more excited. And I think I spent probably almost a good hour with those guests just trying to like explain Disney Plus, this is what you, or Disney experience. I'm
Yes.
combining things. Yeah, Disney, my Disney experience, and how to plan things out and how to use your fast passes and how you can look at your phone and use this to your advantage. And like, here's the map and here's how you can plan them out. And it was a great time um, spending that time with those guests. And the nice thing about guest relations too is you aren't like pressured to push lines in the same sense as you might be a character attendant. I mean, you still, it's like, they're still like, hey, please be mindful of the time, but you're not just churning numbers to churn numbers. So it was nice. And so you can take the time with that guest and make them have a more pleasurable experience throughout Disney. And then I also
That's
want to mention
nice.
some of the other things that we did as well, because it's like one of my favorites. So you get things like that and you get assistance. Then you get the weird guest requests and the fun ones. And so we were there in Epcot and it was late at night and a guest came by and they're like, okay, me, me and my husband just got the results of our gender for our baby and they wanted us to help them with the gender reveal, and they're like, here's a lightsaber, here's the email, tell us, look at what it is, here's some crystals, I need you to put the crystals in the lightsaber for which color it's supposed to be. So that was, we would help with those sorts of things too, and it was just awesome. And I'm like, I love that guests will come to you for that. They're like, this is the person I want to entrust with. So it's like at a point in time it was me, my coworker, and the doctor essentially only knowing the gender of the baby.
True. That's awesome. That's special. I'm glad you shared that story because,
It is so special.
guests, why do you think guests do trust you?
That's the reputation that Disney gave us,
Yeah,
and that we are meant to upkeep.
true. Now, question about the internship because I know when I did the college program, basically it was just working at Disney World. Like that's what it was. Is there any extra
Mm-hmm.
like anything that makes it an internship versus I just work at guest relations, or did it feel just like you worked at guest relations?
So the job itself, yes, you did work at guest relations. I mean, they do say like your college, wherever you're at, so they can see that. I would say what makes it more like an internship than just working is on the internship side of Disney, where they give you all of these different opportunities that you can do. So doing the resume builder workshops and those sorts of things, resume, cover letter, this event for CPs and sorry, PIs. I was about to say
Oh,
IP and PIs only. That's what made it feel more like an internship because it was exclusive to you and not the general cast.
so they did have like classes or events just for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. You could even take, I remember too, just like DCP, you could still, even as a PI, also take these other like classes that they offered for you to take. Like, you remember
Oh,
those classes?
yes, I did. I did.
I can't remember all of them. Like, you would have one where an Imagineer would be talking for most of it, and that would be your facilitator. So you had all those different
All
classes.
those. Yeah, I did. That makes sense. They did that. I did Disney Entertainment Show production class, and then I did one
Hmm.
that's all about Walt and his life. I forgot his.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was so cool.
I remember those. Yeah. So PIs could still take those.
That's awesome. Did you like it more than your college program?
Yeah, I did. It was a lot of fun at guest relations. Like, It was also a lot. I did have a lot of fun too. So before I went into guest relations with photo class, and I'm just like, I wish I could return to that time, like pre-COVID, just specifically that point in time, because it felt nice because it was like I've graduated officially, and I'm having fun working for one of the first times, so more like second time ever or whatever. And so it just felt nice. And then COVID happened, and just everything went and hit the ceiling.
Yeah. Oh, that's so annoying that you had at that time frame, January through.
Yeah. January to March. Yeah, the PI was great. Everybody in guest relations are like way over the top nice as well. That you're just like in awe at how amazing people can actually be.
Yeah. What are some of the common things you saw? Like if someone wanted a job at guest relations and they're like in college, what would you tell them to do?
Practice being nice to everyone so it shows in your work ethic later on that you are nice. Like that is definitely like number one. Always smile, always be happy. Like I definitely think like they look for that like genuine self. So if you practice being genuine, it will reflect in the sense that when you're on your interview and they hear just your voice over your phone, you can kind of convince the recruiter like, hey, I will be nice like this just like I am to you, to the guests, and I'll make sure they have the best experience possible. So that's your focus. And I would definitely say if you want that extra added of maybe go for marketing or some sort of business, take one of those majors. Don't be me with an art major who's just out there in the wild, because you can get
Ah,
rejected. Because I did get rejected at first.
but it worked
I
out.
got lucky. I got lucky. I got lucky.
Do you think a lot of did you personally associate with other interns in any field, or were you kind of just more associated with guest relation friends?
It was so short that really it was just guest relations friends. It was really, really short. Like you would have, because training, it was about 2 weeks, right? You had a week that was at Disney University for training, and it was just all computer based, and it's all guest relations cast member there. And it was just all of the guest relations PIs specifically that were hired with you that are there. So you were just all just the guest relations interns. Um, and then you would go to your location, and again you're with your interns and your trainer, and they did so much. Like they valued their PIs so much. Like it was great. And definitely in guest relations, I'm convinced like people get in there and they don't leave. Like everyone that I met as coworkers and those who got called back went right immediately back for guest relations. Like they don't leave.
Wow.
It's a really good position. And I would, if I get back in there, I probably wouldn't leave it either.
Do you
um
want to work back there?
yes, absolutely. It's just hiring is not existing for it.
Fair.
Yeah, I absolutely would go back in a heartbeat. It's just because I was a PI, you were not really on a priority list. They're like, thanks. But essentially, like, I still have connections with leaders, and they're like, we'll let you know if something ever comes up. So
Yay.
that's the good thing. But yeah, because it was just so short, you were only with like guest relations PIs. And then it wasn't until after COVID that I met somebody that I had roommates actually that were other PIs. But again, that was after COVID, and we were all like, hey, what are we doing? Don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And because I guess in the college program, some people were associated with CPs, other people made a lot of friends at work. It just kind of depended on your situation
Yeah.
and your like roommate situation and everything. So, okay. Did you enjoy doing it? If you could have done guest relations at anywhere, where else would be your next choice to work at it?
So the good thing is I did see all parks except for studios. And it was because at that time, um, Rise of the Resistance had like was going to open, and they had the Millennium Falcon, and they just had all their new Star Wars stuff. And they're like, yeah, you need certain requirements for that one, because they didn't want other casts from other parks um giving out like fast passes for those rides and attractions. Like
Oh,
so they had like a different set of requirements. What's the thing? It was like, those requirements, not, I'm trying to remember the word for it. You know how like it's a requirement. Like you have to be here. You had to be a Hollywood Studios cast member to do anything. Otherwise, if you went to pick up a shift in studios and you got anything
oh,
related to Star Wars, you had to send it over
I'm
to the
trying to
other
think of that
person. It's
word.
like the D-Learn requirements. Ugh.
Yeah, it's like your
Proficiencies.
yes, yes, yes.
There we
That's
go.
what it's
Yeah,
called.
yeah, yeah.
Your
So you had to have
proficiency.
specifically a studio's proficiency for all the Star Wars stuff. So I didn't pick up there. Um, I'm not a big Star Wars fan, so I wouldn't go to studios. I think I really loved my time at Epcot, but I also would probably go back to Animal Kingdom. But I'm also biased towards Animal Kingdom because that's where my photo pass internship was located.
So you have some of your heart there.
Yeah, my heart is Epcot and Animal Kingdom.
I feel that. There's nothing like, whether you had bad memories or good memories, there's still something because you serve so many people there.
Yeah, you really do. Photo pass was cool too because you got to see guests you would get during the summertime. I'm just totally trailing off now, but you would
Right.
get guests who are like they're British guests or any of your European guests, and they're there for a month. And in PhotoPass, you would see them repeatedly that whole month, and they're like, "Hey, I had you the other day." They're like, "Yeah, I
Oh,
saw you guys too. Now I got to think of something else for you. Hang on."
that's so sweet. That's kind of how it was working at a resort. You would see people a little often.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Guest
Anything
relations, I don't really think I saw like people on repeat because they just wouldn't need to. Guest relations, our goal also was is like it's a one-stop shop. We only want you here once.
Yeah, like let's solve all your problems now. Anything else you need? Okay. I do think when you mentioned that, I'm like, every time I've had to go, I never felt rushed. So that thing you said of like, there's not pressure to keep the line going. I always feel
Yeah, there's
like
not.
I'm the only person in front of them.
Pretty much. Like we're mindful of the line, right? Sometimes something goes wrong, then there's a problem. Like I came in right after they had opened up the Skyliner and my coworkers had told me about like the craziness of the Skyliner when it first opened and then it's first time that it shut down. They had a malfunction and they're like, okay, everybody's got to come off. Like I don't it's like they had I think like a 3-4 hour long shutdown. This made the news and everything, so it's good to talk about. And it just sucks. It's like, okay, well, this is the process of getting hundreds of people off of this poor Skyliner, and I'm so sorry you were here for the past 3 out of the 4 hour rescue, and we're gonna help you the best we can. And so we had a lot of guest recovery that night.
So for something like bigger like that, what kind of recovery do they get?
Um, I wasn't a part of it, so I don't really know. But essentially, so at that point, those types of things, the company decides what the recovery needs to be.
So like, I mean, those guys got to be pretty mad because first of all, that's scary. Secondly, that's a lot of time. So
Yeah,
you weren't there, but what would you guess? Like, would it be like money or like a hotel gift card or like,
you more than likely it's like a gift card.
okay,
Yeah, more than likely it's gift card. Sometimes based on the conditions and like what the guest might say, you might get a park pass, but it's all like, were you on there for the past 3 hours, missed your dinner reservation, missed your fast pass reservation? Like you had to have missed like almost everything across the border that made your day not worth it being there at Disney, essentially, right?
wow. Oh,
That it's like, oh, okay, maybe we might need to give you another pass to come and experience another day if that's what it would be. But more than likely, Disney had like a set up amount of like, okay, this is how much our ceiling is going to be. This is most likely like this is our default that you're just going to offer anybody who asks. They would do that in those like really really large situations. It was like when COVID happened as well, we're all like, what do we do? What is the protocol? Because they said, okay, Disney's parks are closing, but didn't give us any protocol of, oh, well, what do we do now that the guests are like swarming in? And so we would just had to wait and we were just kind of like listening to the stories first. And so you would just continue to listen to like what everybody's concerns were and then make a decision. And I think probably about 2 hours from then or about an hour and a half, they finally said, okay, this is what you need to do. And you're going to tell them all of this because we're going to go back in and we're going to extend all the park passes. Don't give them any more.
okay, okay.
Yeah. So we said, okay, they're going to extend your annual pass. Please be mindful of waiting for that time to happen. And so that's what we would tell them and send them on their way.
Fair. Okay, that works. Wow, this is so cool to hear, kind of this side of things.
Yeah,
Um,
that's our side. Disney decided what the appropriate
yeah.
actions are.
Anything else that comes to mind when you think about internship or guest relations before I go into rapid fire questions? This is just fun questions about. Do you pronounce your name
Yeah,
Ariel or Ariel?
Ariel, like the mermaid.
Ariel. Okay. Yeah. Any final words about Disney Professional Internship?
apply to everything you possibly feel like you think or is something that you want to do because you really don't totally know. I know some people say, oh, only apply to certain things. And I'm like, oh, well, I applied to two different realms and got the realm that I wasn't expecting. So I don't know. I think it's like if you make it, if you want to do it, I think that's what it is. You need to make sure that you want to do it. Don't apply for an engineering based position when you have no experience in that, obviously. But if it's something you want to do, so guest relations is good for everyone and anyone. Just how are you going to sell yourself? That's the real question. Because that I think that's the biggest thing too is your interviews. How are you selling yourself? Because you got to sell yourself.
Yeah, especially for guest relations, right? That interview kind of is more important than whatever words come out of your mouth. It's how you're saying it, right?
Yeah, mostly. I It's how you're saying it for sure. You definitely want to sound, I guess, a little educated in a way. I don't know exactly. You definitely want to sound business professional. So just kind of understanding that sort of lingo. Cause I know like, especially as Americans, mind you, I speak Japanese. So this is where it kind of comes in as Americans, like even we get like super, super casual in our way of speaking with everyone. And then when you go somewhere else, you're like, oh, okay, that's crazy. But if it was like Japanese language, there actually is like a full blown like professional level of speaking that is adhered to. That in our way, it's just watching how we're talking, what speed are we talking at, how are we addressing a guest or a customer if you're not in Disney, how are you addressing that guest and how are you addressing your leaders, and trying to make sure that your filler words such as like and don't actually exist. That's a big key. That makes it sound like you really know what you're talking about. Slowing it down and not putting in those filler words. Pause it instead.
You're very good at it. I don't think I heard you use any filler words on this whole interview.
Oh, trust me, they're there. When I start talking really fast, they're there.
All
But
right.
that last moment, I slowed down and showed you kind of a little bit about how to speak with other people, and especially when you're speaking in an interview. I still have a lot of excitement in my voice, and I always have to like fight that excitement just to kind of make sure that I don't overwhelm someone either, because I can talk really, really fast.
Yes, same. Did you use Japanese on the job?
Yes, I did. I was actually one of those. So the way how they did it is in guest relations in the back, we had like a board of people who spoke the different languages. It was a lot of fun at Epcot because we had a huge amount of international people because we would also have international PIs as well. Yeah, so they would be up there and say, okay, this person for this language. So in case you had a guest and they needed a different language, you could just kind of check who's on duty. Just check the back real quick and be
Oh,
like, okay, you're gonna come over here. I need your help, please. And you would just like bring the guest and bring it to the person who spoke that language. So if it was someone who spoke Japanese, they'd be like, okay, I'm gonna bring you over to Ariel over here. She's gonna help you. Please just wait a minute for her to finish up with this guest. And that's what we would do. Or sometimes we would be like, what are you doing with that guest? Can I take them and you take them? Just swap
oh,
them.
swap it. So how often would that happen? Once a day, once a week, twice a week, twice a day?
Japanese Japanese would be about once or twice a day. More often, just about once. Japanese was rarer, but Portuguese and Spanish were the most common. You could be looking around like, who's you? Those are the ones you want to check. Who's on duty today?
Okay.
Who's on stage with us? Who's got these languages like before? And you see that board before you walk out on stage. So that was the good thing. You can check and just make sure. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that they're here. I need to know because you'll have your whole like little counter island of like that semicircle that they have in Epcot. Guest
Yes.
relations is that kind of semicircle counter island. So you're like, I'm going to make mental notes. So and so is here in case I need their languages. And then I think like French would be the next one. Japanese was definitely on the rarer side. Japanese and Chinese and Korean, the Asian languages. Like we would have those guests, but those guests would come like prepared. They already knew what to do.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's so cool you got to use it. I bet those guests appreciated it, talking to you and that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, they loved, especially the Japanese ones. They would be like, "Oh my God, you speak Japanese? It's like crazy. You pronounce really well." That's what they would say. They're like, I understand you don't sound American, essentially. Like, you don't speak with an accent. They're like, your accent is very Japanese." And I'm like, I just watch too much anime. That's what that is. And they'd laugh anyways. Like it was so funny. I'm like, that's the truth, though. That is the absolute truth. I watched way too much anime to not.
But how did you become fluent in it and read it and write it?
Oh, I took Japanese in high school. They had it as an option, and I kind of fell in love with the language and I studied obsessively to learn it. And then I took 2 more years in college. So that That's my Japanese
Gosh,
history.
that could be so helpful in so many careers. That's amazing.
Oh, I would say also probably good to know a second language as well if you're applying to guest relations, because that definitely gives you a huge edge.
Ooh, you hear that, everyone listening? If you're in high school or college, you still have time. Take a language, commit. Worth it.
I forget, I forget sometimes that, oh yeah, I have that really weird language that definitely pulls me through.
Oh yeah, that's you're like, I don't know why I got hired.
Oh yeah, yeah. I also speak this. That's rare.
Well,
That
that's
does, and it does in my end too, because I speak Japanese. All of a sudden, like since Japanese speaking is so rare, like they give you will meet everybody else. Like you'll meet all the Japanese interns that are there, and there could be like the American that speaks Japanese. They come up to you. No, they will come up to you. 日本語喋るの? Hi. Ah, that's the conversation. Like they're like that's so cool. Like, it's so fun, and that's with your coworkers and the guests. They're just so spooked by it because I speak Japanese. Um, I don't know if that's like the same thing in other languages. Like I know my boyfriend who speaks Spanish, he's native Spanish speaker. Same thing, that doesn't apply the same way. It's like you speak Spanish, cool.
yes, way, way not impressive.
It's not the same level of impressive for
Not the same
whatever
level of
reason.
impressive.
Yeah,
Well,
no, in my end, I'm actually Spanish background, but don't speak a lick of Spanish.
oh my
And
gosh.
Spanish people are like, you need to speak Spanish. I'm like, my defense, my shield is I speak Japanese. And they're like, fine, but learn Spanish.
You well, the intern I talked to before this, well, he was an intern. He and I both agreed. We both been to Tokyo Disneyland. Have you been there?
No, I need to go. I need money.
Yeah, it was my favorite Disney experience I've ever had. I loved it. Loved the people, loved Disney Sea. So I'm sure you'll go someday.
I believe it. I had a friend who also went recently, and she's like a show painter, so a themed painter, so scenic painter, does all of that. And she's like, the amount of theme that is upheld in Disney Sea is just insane and blows the American side out of the water.
Yes, I think that me as a fan, I personally I feel like I'm more of a Japanese fan. I don't know, like you know how they like make things for their audience, like they make shows for their audience and music and food. I just think
Mm-hmm.
that I like their, especially the shows because I'm a performer and their shows like for me were the best. Like just the songwriting, like it's a little bit more, I don't know, cheesy. I don't know a better word. It's like a little bit more like kind of just cheesy, I guess, but I love it. I love it.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I do believe it's a lot of fun. They're definitely Japanese are definitely entertainers.
Yes. Okay, we'll wrap up real quick. I'm just gonna ask you some random about you. Okay,
Okay,
your favorite live action Disney movie?
Maleficent.
Hmm. Favorite Disney resort?
Oh, you hit me hard there.
I know.
Oh, Polynesian.
Yeah, same. Favorite Disney restaurant? Anywhere.
Oh my God, no, I got one that I gotta try soon. I'm biased. I'm like really biased. Like I wish I tried it to give you a full answer,
Where are you gonna try?
but it's been a couple months for my birthday to do a takumite in Japan Pavilion in Epcot. It's in omakase, so like they would give you little bits of sushi and you have a conversation with the sushi chef and stuff. And it's like quieter and more intimate in that sense. So I really, really want to try that. Other than that, oh my God, I'm a big foodie. That's a hard one. Like I could give you the best restaurants, I'll tell you that much. Oh my God.
Different
What's
ones.
my favorite one? Oh
Maybe
my
say
God.
a favorite resort and a favorite park one.
I know that's what I'm thinking of. So many food restaurants. Okay. I will say recently, especially because I liked my steak a lot. So the Yachtsman in the Yacht and Beach Club is really, really good. And
Okay.
those who are Disney cast, your coupons work there.
Oh,
So that
50%.
one's definitely no, for real. Yeah, anniversary dinners, good spot. Like there's recently too, Disney steaks have been like their supplier, whoever it is doing great. And I'm like, don't change your supplier for your steaks. There was that one, and then I'm literally forgetting the name of the other one because I have MS and my brain just throws things out the window some days. And it's
That's
in the park.
in one of the parks.
Yeah, I'll just give you one. It's there's the one that is literally right before you go into Pandora.
Oh, um, Tiffin's?
There we go. Tiffin's. Yeah, Tiffin's is also really good that I like to go to a lot.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
That's
she's saying very
what's on
expensive
my brain.
restaurants. Those are the $3 sign restaurants. At least Tiffin's. Yachtsman might be too.
Tiffin's is, yeah. No, Yachtsman's more expensive than Tiffin's.
Oh, what? Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
Okay,
Tiffin, but both your Disney coupons and discounts tend to apply.
yes.
Yeah. Tiffin's before the pandemic had 40% off, like just as a thing for cast with your Blue ID. Yeah, it was like I think like the lunchtime times. I go to the expensive ones with the Disney discounts. Otherwise, they're not. I don't think they're totally worth it. I also really want to try Victoria and Albert's because I hear it's the best thing out there, but that is about $300 a person ticket. Yeah, three, probably closer to four. It is the most expensive restaurant on Disney property. Therefore, I have not been. And I'm going to Comité because that was supposed to be a birthday present pre-COVID, I guess 2019 when it opened, right? But then COVID happened. I got sick on my birthday.
Hmm.
That's why I couldn't go. And so we were like, okay, we'll just do it again at some point. And then COVID happened. It was like it was just so fast. And then they've just been closed until this year. And so I'm like, hey mom, I've got a birthday present.
Let's go.
we owe. And she's like, oh my God. Like, you think I'm not gonna forget that? She's like, I know you wouldn't forget that. And I'm like, we have to go. She's like, she wants to go as well. So it's all good, but it would just be us. Because that is the second most expensive restaurant on Disney property to do
I
the
mean,
omakase.
I think that'll be special. I think that you'll love that experience. And
Oh no, I cannot wait. The Japanese people over there and the chefs love the fact that I speak Japanese. They're just like, oh my
that's
God.
so
And
cool.
that's the experience on my mom's side because she just loves watching them freak out.
Yes, it's gonna be great. When's your birthday, Ariel?
November 17th.
All right, it's coming up. It's coming up.
Heck yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time to do this, and I loved it. I loved hearing about this and you, and um, yeah, I think people will be able to leave comments on this, and then I'll tag you. So if they have specific questions, but and
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm
Welcome.
glad to have been here. I'm good to answer any questions. So tag me and I will absolutely answer any fan questions.
Woo! We love Ariel. Okay, thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye. Have a good day.